The description we are checking is a description of line graph. And I'll start with introduction. The line graph depicts information about trainers sailing from 2000 to 2006. Introduction looks okay, but it already contains some mistakes. The line graph depicts information. Depict is a kind of verb which looks very strange in IELTS writing task 1 descriptions. I usually recommend my students two verbs, compare and illustrate. Illustrate we can use for single graphs, while compare can be more suitable here when we have 2 or 3 graphs. Trainer sailing. Sailing, you want maybe to say sails. So sailing is not correct here. So if we just want to make change to our line graph, we will have the line graph compares how many trainers were sold between 2000 and 2006. According to the line graph, it can be clearly seen that unlike the sales of Rapido, that of Flight and Swift are upward trends. It's an overview sentence, and I don't think that according to the line graph is an appropriate phrase we can start our overview. So you could just start with, it can be clearly seen that unlike the sales of Rapido, that of Flight and Swift not are upward, but showed upward trends. The figure for Rapido began with 200,000 sales in 2000 and it went up dramatically to just below 400,000 in the next year. It would be much more appropriate if we said the figure for Rapido not began, but it stood. Stood at 200,000 sales in 2000 and it went up dramatically to just below 400,000 in the next year. In the next years, I guess there are 2 repetitions over there. Maybe not in the next. It would be much appropriate to say in the following years. The trend followed by a sharp decrease to almost 900 years in a year. What do you mean by the trend? The trend followed by a sharp decrease. Maybe it would be much more appropriate to say there was a sharp decrease with a figure falling to almost 900 sales in a year. Again, you have started with in the following years and then you are ending the sentence with in a year, which makes it so hard to understand what you mean. So I guess in this sentence here overall there are a lot of inaccuracies and it's completely impossible to understand what you mean. In the rest of the period shown, the number decreased slightly and remained almost constant around nearly 800,000. It's okay. Trends for Flight and Swift are similar in a certain extent, which started by just below 150,000 and approximately 50,000 respectively. Trends for Swift and Sim are similar in some extent. Maybe you wanted to say the pattern or Flight and Swift show the similar pattern by starting the period at 150,000 and 50,000 respectively. Both figures saw up and down in the same years and reached a peak of nearly 400,000 and 140,000 in 2005. Both figures saw up and down, maybe went up and down. went up and down the same years and reached a peak of nearly 400 and 100 in 2000. Again, in this sentence, in this paragraph actually, I guess the candidate has already missed some points, and by overgeneralizing, the candidate has made sentences so simple, which would not be so suitable for IELTS. In summary, although Rapido started the period with the highest series, at the end of the period it finished third and Flight and Sweet finished first and second respectively. Actually, it is said that in IELTS writing, for IELTS writing, you don't need conclusion or in a summary sentence, because you have already written an overview here, and your overview means conclusion. So we don't need to write one more overview. Overall, I can say that the description you have presented about line graph is very simple, and it lacks a range of vocabulary and grammatical sentences. If you take into account those mistakes, maybe next time you can write a better writing. Moreover, let's pay attention to word count. I see that its word count is already lower than 150, and for this you are very likely to miss some points. Please take into consideration next time when you are describing in a line graph. Now, our next description here, it's essay actually, and it started with a phrase. To begin with, it is a good point that some part of people fancy to witness live performances, concert shows, but others like watch them using modern technology like television or computers. I'm support of second part of people. Actually, introduction already contains so many mistakes that would be too hard for us to adjust them, but I will try to make a few recommendations. To begin with, you should put a comma. It's a good point that some part of people, we never say part of people, part belongs to things. It would be appropriate to say some group of people fancy. After fancy, we do not use verb with to. We say fancy witnessing. Live performances, I guess here again should be comma. Concerts, but others like to watch them. Watch them using modern technology like television or computers. I am a supporter of second part of people. Again, part of people is not correct because we have already mentioned it. I have already mentioned your mistake. As opposed to TV watchers, people who likes is not correct. We should say people who like live performances. A live performance, they are usually music or theater fans. This kind of people admire live shows and think that is irreplaceable by anything. Also, to take part in concert may be a chance to meet famous people, to get a sign as well. To get a sign, maybe autograph, you mean? Or to get a signature. Some professionals who are specialized in that field, like theater or music, they prefer to watch shows from first rows too and improve themselves. Improve themselves by sitting in the first rows. What do you mean by this? Maybe you mean they want to get more relaxation? As I mentioned before, I am for second idea, which is very comfortable and also has economical advantages. As I mentioned before, I am for second idea has economical advantages. I always said that every creation is for human creation, such as technology. So please avoid writing such sentences for IELTS writing task 2. If all shows performances can be watched on TV or computer, why don't we do not reuse this opportunity? Using technology provides people with comfort and avoids them, prevent, you won't say, right? Prevent them from spending money prevents them from spending time much meaninglessly. At this time, the tickets of any concert is so expensive that is why people cannot buy and enjoy their time. Moreover, sitting at home and watching TV is more preferable. People can feel relaxed and not surrounded by a lot of strangers. In conclusion, I would say that tastes differ. Every choice has belonging advantages and people can opt two of them. Generally, I first try to correct your grammatical mistakes. Now I'd like to give my feedback according to each paragraph. Here, introduction could be more fully developed. I think just you have taken the same structure using while some people do so, while others do so, but you could enrich it by using quite different vocabulary. As opposed to TV vouchers, here this idea again needs some extension, and you have no example, you cannot prove what you want to say, and that's why the idea is considered as a weak body. The body actually is considered as a weak body, and I don't think that you will get a higher score if you still continue composing bodies in the same way. Here, in the second body, you touched some important points about the topic, like economical advantages, or moreover sitting at home and watching is more preferable by people who cannot get relaxation when they are surrounded by a lot of strangers. These were quite different ideas which you could use in order to support your viewpoint. You have several times repeated the I, but we know that IELTS writings should be in formal style, and in formal style we should avoid using I or personal pronouns, any personal pronouns several times. Generally, I consider your essay as a weak essay, and both task 1 and task 2 will deserve the band score of 5. Now it is time for general feedback for your writing. How can you improve your writing? The first thing you can do is to pay attention to your grammatical mistakes, because we already know that grammatical range and accuracy is 25% of our overall score. And while making repetitive grammatical mistakes, it is highly likely that you are decreasing your score. So please keep that in mind.